Most men never realize their marriage is dying, until respect is already gone. And the dangerous part is this: it doesn't start with shouting, cheating, or dramatic fights. It starts quietly, with just two small behaviors that look harmless on the surface but slowly poison everything underneath. If you can recognize them early, you can protect your peace, your dignity, and your future. In the next few minutes, you will understand the two things a destructive wife consistently does that erode a man from the inside out, and more importantly, how a Stoic man remains unshaken even when facing them. If you value calm strength over chaos, subscribe now and stay until the end, because the final insight may completely change how you see love, respect, and silence. A wise man learns to observe before he reacts. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The tragedy is not that people hurt you. The tragedy is not knowing what is happening while it is happening. The first behavior is subtle, almost invisible to outsiders. A destructive wife praises other men in front of her husband. Not casually. Not innocently. Repeatedly. She highlights their success, their strength, their kindness, their intelligence, especially in comparison to her own husband. She may say, "Look at how he treats his wife," or "Why can't you be more like him?" Each sentence is small. Each comment sounds like ordinary conversation. But over time, it becomes psychological erosion. Respect is not lost in one storm. It is worn away like stone under dripping water. Epictetus taught that suffering comes not from events themselves but from our judgments about them. Many men explode in anger when this happens. But anger reveals insecurity, not strength. The Stoic man does something far more powerful: he observes the pattern without immediately reacting. Because when a person constantly elevates others while diminishing you, they are not admiring those people. They are signaling dissatisfaction, resentment, or a need for control. Nobody compares you to someone else when they are content with you. Comparison is a weapon disguised as preference. And the deeper danger is not humiliation, it is conditioning. If you accept it silently while shrinking inside, you teach the other person that your dignity has no boundary. Seneca warned, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." In the same way, he who fears conflict will tolerate disrespect until he no longer recognizes himself. But here is where most men misunderstand Stoicism. Stoicism is not weakness. It is not silent suffering. It is disciplined clarity. A Stoic man does not compete with strangers for approval in his own home. He does not beg to be valued. He does not perform masculinity for validation. He simply becomes so grounded in his own character that comparisons lose their power. When a man knows who he is, praise for another man does not diminish him. The sun does not dim because someone admires the moon. Yet repeated public comparison carries a hidden message: you are not enough. Over time, that message either breaks a man or hardens him into quiet indifference. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that other people's opinions cannot harm you unless you grant them permission. Still, even a strong man must ask one important question: is this admiration, or is it disrespect wearing a polite mask? Watch the frequency. Watch the tone. Watch whether appreciation ever flows toward you with the same enthusiasm. Because genuine love notices your strengths. Chronic comparison ignores them. Some wives do this unconsciously, driven by frustration they cannot articulate. Others do it deliberately, as a way to provoke change or assert dominance. But intention does not erase impact. Repeated comparison tells a man that his presence is ordinary while others are exceptional. And human beings eventually withdraw from places where they feel invisible. A Stoic response is not shouting, sulking, or revenge. It is calm boundary. Few things are more unsettling than a man who refuses to play emotional games. When you respond with composure instead of insecurity, you force reality into the open. Epictetus said, "If someone speaks badly of you, live so that no one will believe it." The same principle applies here. Become so internally stable that comparisons sound irrelevant rather than threatening. But there is an even darker layer. Constant praise of other men can create rivalry where none existed. It invites resentment. It tests patience. It tries to pull you into competition for affection, a game you lose the moment you start playing. Because dignity cannot coexist with desperation. Silence, when rooted in strength, communicates more than arguments ever could. Not the silence of suppression, the silence of certainty. The kind that says, "I know my worth, whether you acknowledge it or not." Yet this first behavior, destructive as it is not the worst one. Many relationships survive comparison. Few survive what comes next. Because the second behavior does not just wound a man's pride, it poisons the entire foundation of the relationship. And once it becomes a pattern, recovery becomes extremely difficult, even for the strongest man. The second behavior is more painful because it is more personal. A destructive wife treats others with warmth, respect, and kindness, while treating her own husband with coldness, irritation, or contempt. Strangers receive her smile. Guests receive her patience. Friends receive her empathy. But the man who shares her home receives what is left over: sharp words, indifference, or constant criticism. Nothing confuses a man more than watching the person who once adored him become gentle with everyone except him. Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." When kindness is given freely to the world but withheld from one person, it stops being personality and starts being a message. The message is not always, "I hate you." Sometimes it is, "I no longer respect you." And in relationships, loss of respect is far more dangerous than loss of affection. Affection can return. Respect, once broken, rarely rebuilds to its original strength. At first, a man will rationalize it. She is stressed. She is tired. She had a bad day. He becomes patient, supportive, understanding. A good man wants peace, not conflict. He absorbs tension to protect the relationship. But patience without boundaries becomes permission. Epictetus warned that if you want to improve, you must be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, stop performing goodness just to avoid discomfort. Because there comes a moment when tolerance stops being virtue and starts becoming self-betrayal. Imagine speaking carefully to avoid triggering anger in your own home while hearing that same person laugh effortlessly with others. Imagine being corrected publicly but dismissed privately. Imagine realizing that the world sees her best version, while you live with the worst. This creates a quiet loneliness that is harder to endure than open hostility. Open conflict at least acknowledges your existence. Indifference erases it. Marcus Aurelius observed that people do wrong out of ignorance of good and evil. Sometimes harsh treatment comes from unresolved resentment that was never expressed honestly. Instead of direct communication, it leaks out as sarcasm, impatience, or emotional withdrawal. The problem is not always cruelty. Sometimes it is accumulated disappointment turned inward until it poisons everything outward. But Stoicism teaches responsibility for what is within your control. You cannot control another person's tone, mood, or behavior. You can control what you tolerate. A man with quiet strength does not beg for basic respect. He does not chase warmth from someone who gives it freely to everyone else. He becomes still, observant, deliberate. Not because he has stopped caring, but because he has started seeing clearly. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In relationships, craving constant validation from someone who withholds it will exhaust you. You start performing for approval instead of living with dignity. Some men respond by becoming louder, harsher, more dominant, trying to force respect through intimidation. Others become passive, shrinking themselves further to avoid conflict. Both responses come from fear. Neither restores genuine connection. The Stoic path is different. It asks one brutal question. Is this environment aligned with your values, or is it eroding them? When a man is treated worse than strangers in his own home, the issue is not manners. It is meaning. Home should be a place of restoration, not depletion. If peace exists everywhere except where you live, something fundamental is broken. And yet, Stoicism does not rush to blame. It asks for self-examination first. Have you neglected your own growth? Have you allowed comfort to replace purpose? Have you stopped showing up as the man you once were? Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to correct his own faults before judging others. Sometimes disrespect grows where leadership, presence, or emotional availability has quietly disappeared. But even when self-reflection reveals imperfections, cruelty is not justified. Growth is mutual or it is not growth at all. The most dangerous outcome of this second behavior is not anger, it is numbness. When a man stops expecting kindness, he stops offering vulnerability. When he stops offering vulnerability, emotional intimacy dies. What remains is cohabitation without connection, two people sharing space but not life. And once indifference replaces care, the relationship becomes a shell. Quiet on the outside. Hollow on the inside. Yet there is still something deeper to understand. These two behaviors, praising other men and treating others better than you, are not random habits. They come from an internal state. Insecurity. Resentment. Loss of admiration. Or sometimes simply the fading of emotional investment. Stoicism does not teach you to hate the person causing pain. It teaches you to see reality without illusion. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." Acceptance is not approval. It is clarity without denial. Once you see clearly, you stop reacting blindly. And this is where a man either breaks, or transforms. Because the goal of Stoicism is not to control others. It is to master yourself so completely that other people's instability cannot destabilize you. Transformation begins the moment a man stops asking, "Why is she doing this to me?" and starts asking, "Who am I becoming in response to this?" Pain can either shrink you or sharpen you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the obstacle is the way, not something in the way. What wounds you can also reveal you. Many men, when faced with these two behaviors, chase reassurance. They try harder, give more, tolerate more, hoping kindness will be returned. But generosity without reciprocity becomes depletion. Seneca warned that nothing is more miserable than uncertainty. Living in constant emotional ambiguity, not knowing whether you are valued or merely tolerated, drains even the strongest spirit. A Stoic man withdraws from chaos not out of spite, but out of preservation. Not withdrawal from responsibility, withdrawal from emotional turbulence. He stops arguing to win approval. He stops explaining himself to someone committed to misunderstanding him. Silence becomes not punishment, but protection. Epictetus taught that if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, emotional control is power. The moment you react impulsively, you surrender that power. And nothing destabilizes manipulative behavior more than calm indifference. When praise for other men no longer triggers jealousy. When cold treatment no longer triggers desperation, the game collapses. Because these behaviors rely on reaction to sustain themselves. This does not mean the Stoic man stops caring. It means he stops performing pain. Strength is quiet because it does not need witnesses. There is a profound difference between being unloved and being unvalued. Unloved hurts the heart. Unvalued erodes the soul. And once a man feels replaceable in his own life, he either loses himself completely, or rebuilds himself from the foundation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Instead of obsessing over another person's flaws, the Stoic man returns to discipline. Physical strength. Mental clarity. Purposeful work. Meaningful friendships. Inner order. He rebuilds areas of life that do not depend on one person's approval. Ironically, this often changes the dynamic more than confrontation ever could. Respect grows toward what is stable, not what is pleading. When you stop orbiting someone emotionally, they are forced to see you as an independent force again rather than a background presence. But Stoicism is not a strategy to manipulate outcomes. It is a philosophy for maintaining dignity regardless of outcome. Whether respect returns or not, the Stoic man refuses to abandon himself. Seneca wrote that a great mind is a mind that is indifferent to fortune. Good treatment should not inflate you. Bad treatment should not destroy you. Your character must not depend on someone else's mood. Still, there is one harsh truth many avoid. Sometimes these behaviors persist because the relationship has already ended emotionally, even if it continues physically. Two people can share a bed and live in entirely different worlds. Silence between them is not peace, it is distance. The Stoic does not cling to illusions. He observes actions, not promises. Warmth toward others and coldness toward you is not confusion. It is information. And information demands response, not denial. Response does not always mean leaving. It means choosing consciously instead of drifting passively. It means restoring self-respect even if circumstances remain unchanged. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If your emotional state rises and falls based on one person's approval, you are not in control of your life. Freedom begins when your peace no longer depends on someone else's behavior. This is why the strongest men often become quieter, not louder. They are not suppressing emotion, they are refining it. Anger burns energy. Bitterness corrodes judgment. Calm preserves strength for what truly matters. And something remarkable happens when a man stabilizes internally. He begins to see people not as enemies or saviors, but simply as human beings acting from their own fears, wounds, and limitations. Compassion can exist without surrender. Distance can exist without hatred. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that he would meet ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest people, not because they were evil, but because they did not know better. This perspective removes surprise, and with it, resentment. Yet compassion does not require self-sacrifice. You can understand someone's pain without allowing it to become your prison. The real victory is not changing another person. It is refusing to let their instability define your identity. And this is where quiet strength reveals its true power. Not in controlling others, not in winning arguments, not in forcing love, but in becoming a man whose peace cannot be negotiated away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When your thoughts are steady, your world becomes steady, even if people around you are not. The two behaviors you have heard, praising other men while diminishing you, and offering kindness to everyone except you, are not just relationship problems. They are tests of identity. They ask one silent question: do you know your worth without being told? If the answer is no, you will chase validation until exhaustion. If the answer is yes, you will move through disappointment without losing yourself. Seneca warned that the greatest loss is not what happens to us, but what we allow it to turn us into. Some men become bitter, suspicious, hardened against all future love. Others become wiser, calmer, more selective about where they invest their energy. Pain does not automatically improve you. Reflection does. A Stoic man understands that respect cannot be demanded, only commanded through consistent character. He does not beg to be chosen. He becomes the kind of man who is difficult to dismiss, even by those who no longer love him. Not because he is intimidating, but because he is grounded. And here is the paradox: the less desperately you seek respect, the more naturally it appears. People are drawn to emotional stability the way ships are drawn to a lighthouse. Not loud. Not chasing. Just present. Unwavering, impossible to ignore. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If you wish to be a man of quiet strength, you must act like one even when it is hardest, especially when it is hardest. That may mean speaking calmly instead of shouting. It may mean setting boundaries without cruelty. It may mean walking away from conversations designed to provoke you. It may mean accepting that not every relationship is meant to last forever. 3 decisions require enormous courage: remaining silent when insulted, saying no when pressured, and walking away when disrespected. None of them feel heroic in the moment. All of them preserve your future self. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that you could leave life right now, so let that determine what you do, say, and think. When you remember how brief life is, wasting years in resentment or humiliation becomes unthinkable. Your time is too valuable to spend it begging for warmth from a cold place. But there is also a hopeful truth. Sometimes people change when they realize you have changed. Sometimes respect returns when dependence disappears. Sometimes distance creates clarity that closeness destroyed. And sometimes, nothing changes except you, and that is enough. Because a man who has rebuilt himself no longer measures his life by who approves of him. He measures it by whether he can look at himself without shame. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." If someone consistently diminishes your spirit, the Stoic response is not hatred. It is re-evaluation. Where you place your attention determines the direction of your life. Home should not feel like a battlefield. Love should not feel like a performance review. Respect should not feel conditional on comparison. If you have recognized these signs in your own life, do not panic. Awareness is not weakness. It is the beginning of freedom. The moment you see clearly, you stop wandering blindly. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes it is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, "I did not abandon myself." If this message resonated with you, it means you value calm over chaos and dignity over drama. Subscribe to Stoic Quiet Strength for more insights that help you build power in silence. Share this with a man who needs to hear it but would never ask. And in the comments, write, "Unshaken," if you choose to become the kind of man whose peace does not depend on anyone else's behavior. Remember this above all, you cannot control whether someone respects you. You can control whether you remain respectable. Stand firm. Speak less. Observe more. Build a life so solid that no one's inconsistency can collapse it. Power is not in being feared. Power is in being unmovable. And a man who cannot be moved, cannot be diminished.